Can everybody just kind of come closer so we can make it a little more intimate? In fact, I had really envisioned that we just kind of make a circle and just be able to look at each other. You know, I don't have to be on the stage, and we can just all vibe out in the 360. How does that feel? Does that feel better? Especially with you know, what Baba Atiba was talking about in terms of form and shape and space. And, you know, in terms of us as a community just doing things together. While we had straight lines, usually when we came together, it was in a circle. We'd have the fire in the middle, and we would sit around the fire, or we would dance around the fire, or we would pray around the fire. You know, so much happened around the fire. And at the same time, we would just come together, period, especially if we were holding each other up. We would encircle each other and protect each other and love on each other, you know, as a collective. I pray we never lose that. It's a part of our ancestral memory, yet there are times when we just get so caught up with doing the things the way we've been taught through this Western lifestyle that sometimes we just forget the ways that are ancient and that we've known. We've known since the beginning of knowing. And so I just really give thanks for you coming and being willing to just fill the space. Because many times people just acknowledge that, oh, thank you, Mama Tassili, you always hold space for us. And I give thanks for the honor of that, because as has been forementioned, there were so many that came before me that gave me the materials that held space for me, so that then I could do it in paying it forward. And so by the same token, you all fill the space. You know, we need each other. We're reflections of each other. And it's not just something cute to say. And I want you to think about, what do you really do by yourself? Do you make your clothes? Do you build your house? Did you mine the oil that propels your vehicle if you rode in a car? But if you rode on a bicycle, did you make the bicycle? If you ride in MARTA, did you make that train? Did you grow the food you ate? Maybe some of you grew some of the food. Did you grow all of it? You know, do you make air? Do you do the work that the plants do? You feel me? Do you generate heat consistently like the sun? We all are dependent, codependent on something or someone for our existence. It's always happening. So the more we take notice of it and we are appreciative of it, the more we're able to be in the state of grace. And grace is also called nirvana or samadhi, or the austere state. And you hear ancients talk about this enlightened state of consciousness. But what is enlightenment? It's grace. Because truth is grace. Because if you think the truth hurts, deal with the lie. Because the truth is going to always come to light. But when you've been lied to, not only do you still have to deal with the truth, but you have to deal with the betrayal, the hurt. So much more came with the lie than if we had just been present to what the truth is. So that's why it's so important for us to really just be present. And so in meditating, Spirit was always showing me the importance of word sound power, particularly for those of us born in, I would say, from the 50s on to now. because we've been present to music and frequencies that have guided us along the way. And even those really that came always before us, they were led by the drums, so I don't want to even just negate that. But and then when I think about the spirituals that were sung during our period of enslavement, many of those spirituals were actually songs like "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." You know, that was when people sung that song, you knew the Underground Railroad was passing through. And if you was getting ready to leave the plantation, you had to get ready. You know? So sound and word sound power and going beyond the meaning, the literal or surface meaning of the word has always been important to us if we take the time to do that. So the word enlightenment, you know, was something that I meditated on frequently. And, you know, periodically, many of us would say, oh, I don't want to be enlightened because, you know, I'm dark, I'm black, and I, you know, don't want to have to deal with that word because that's a European thing and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, what language are we speaking? You know what I'm saying? What language are we speaking? And this being American English, we have to acknowledge that it's a culmination of a lot of different languages that were put together to conduct business. And yet, because life is eternal and it continues to beget itself, even language is living. It's living, it's constantly evolving. I remember a time when ain't, the word ain't wasn't even in the dictionary. Much less so many other words now, you know, that we use just regularly. And it's because we use them regularly that they become accepted. So what is that but an agreement, right? The collective agreement that this is what we're going to use to express or describe something or someone. So, enlightenment, the state of being in the light. What does that mean? You know, back in the day and even now sometimes, you know, it's described sisters like this. It says she light skinned. Does that mean that her skin emanates more light than his? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how healthy she is. You know, because it's not about the hue, even though that's what we've been taught. Okay? It's about what you're putting in that is going to radiate out. So that's why then you can even look at someone who is deeply melanated and you can see all the colors of the rainbow in their skin. And if you're healthy, you could see it in this queen's skin too. Why? Because we are the essence of everything, and when we are truly healthy, we radiate everything. Good and so-called bad. You know. And then let's look at that. What is good and bad? If I'm sitting over here, I may say, well, the lighting is great over here. You may say, no, the lighting is bad over here because I'm trying to use the iPad and the lighting is better over there. So good and bad is a perspective. Right? If this is the water hole and I said, well, you know, me and my brother right here, we just want the water to ourselves, y'all don't get none. That would be pretty bad, wouldn't it? But suppose we were taking the water because we knew it was poisonous and we wanted to cleanse it and we just didn't want to tell y'all and alarm y'all, so we're taking it. So you wouldn't even have a state of trust. You would just be thinking we were just some wicked somebodies. And if we were greedy, we would be some wicked somebodies. So there are degrees of even good, bad, wickedness, worst, you know, best, better, the highest good. There's degrees of that. So again, that comes back to word, sound, power, and what are we uttering as a frequency to describe an experience, and how are we collectively agreeing or disagreeing to use these particular words. So I invite you to consider that in your life always. Because guess what? In the beginning was the Word. And in hip hop, what do we say? Word. 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 And from that expression of vibrational frequency, if we're saying it harsh, it carries heat. If we're saying it light, it's not carrying heat, it's carrying a more of a cooling sensation. So we're either adding fire to something, somebody may say, oh, Mama Tassili is spicy. Yeah. And especially if you're incorporating the astrology in it, because I'm a fire sign. Right? Sag, yes, absolutely. So how many people do you know are spicy? They bring the heat, they bring the fire. You might even do that, and you might be a water sign, but you might have influences from other planets that come together and create that heat when you are feeling passionate about something. That's why passion is typically associated with heat, because we're emanating more energy in the expression of what we've agreed to communicate about. So really the only reason why we use words to begin with is because we've forgotten how to telepathically communicate as a whole. So we use the words to then communicate with each other. That's it. If we say masculine and feminine, it has something to do with the genitals based upon reproduction and how the body was made to take form. But if you're talking about energy transference, we're just talking about energy that is more harsh, linear, decisive, more brain-oriented, which we all have, do we not?
That's right.
All have that. That's called masculine.
That's right.
And when we talk about something that's soft and gentle, fluid and creative, nurturing, which we all have, right? We all have that side to us. We call it feminine. But if a man is being that way, tapping into his feminine side, society in the past has taught us, oh, you being too much like a woman, or you sound like a girl, you know, or oh, you being this, that, and the third. And why? We have to consider why those words have been used to describe a frequency. So that's all it is a frequency. That doesn't mean that the person is a bad person. Doesn't mean they're necessarily good either. We're just using those terms to describe a frequency. So I want you to consider that because the words are yours, and like India Irie says, you know, when you utter something, you're the first one to hear it. Because it's coming from you. When you utter that, what are you saying? What are you creating? Are you bringing peace? Are you bringing clarity? Are you bringing confusion? Are you bringing anger? Are you bringing joy? And each of those expressions have a place, but in the spirit of Maat, which was mentioned by several of the folks that came on and spoke earlier, one of the virtues of Maat is propriety. I mean, just because you're saying it don't mean it's supposed to be said right now. Okay, right. You know what I'm saying? Is it appropriate right now?
Right.
Is it going to make a difference right now? It might. Then again, it might not. Is it kind? If my breath is bad, please tell me. Don't be talking to me like this. I'd rather you say, Mama Tassili, something going on with you, you all right? I'd be like, what do you mean? Well, I don't know. You know, there's an odor coming from you when you're talking. I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I didn't know, but maybe I ate something that was wrong. Maybe something is really going on with me that I haven't told anybody about. And now it's coming out in such a way that Spirit is saying it's time for it to be addressed. See, the truth always comes to the light. I remember sharing with somebody that their breath was bad, and I whispered it to them, and the person turned around and was so angry with me. And I'm like, what did I do? You know, but the stigma attached to something so intimate is hard for some people to deal with based upon what? The word sound that they experienced growing up around so-called bad breath. Maybe they were, you know, embarrassed by it. Maybe it's been a chronic situation. Who knows? But whatever their experience was, now they can't even handle it when someone is sharing with them that this is a thing, and it would help them to actually address it. So, when we begin to recognize that words are just tools, and that they are tools that create through emotion, through feeling, realities, right? Y'all following me? Okay. Because of what operative word? Emotion. So either I'm feeling shame, because now my breath is bad, I'm embarrassed, you know, I'm worried, did I offend? Who did I offend? You know? And oh, how will people view me? Mama Tassili eats kale all the time, and she got bad breath. Well, so first of all, I don't trip like that, because as much kale as I eat, I smell it like garlic, and having kale in my teeth is a reality. But I'm using myself as an example, because a lot of times we're so busy wanting to look good externally that it's hard for us to deal with the truth. So, again, one of our prolific prophets that you will hear me refer many times to rappers, because I just love what they drop, whether I love all of what they drop or part of what they drop. But Eminem, his movie 8 Mile, what he did was brilliant, right? When he was battling that brother, he was getting ready to get up there, and he was like, okay, yeah, I'm white trash, what? He just started tearing himself down, and he did it in such a way with such dignity that nobody could come back and say anything about him, because he spoke about himself not only from the word sound that other people had said about him and that he was taught, but he took it and flipped it, and he spoke it from a place of dignity. So this is the truth, but that's so. What? What are you? Are you living truth?
Right.
You know, let's talk about the hypocrisy that you're dealing with. You saying you from the hood, but you are college grad and you came from a bougie neighborhood. But you saying you street. You know, now he was talking to a brother, and we could get into the black and whiteness of it, but that in the moment would be a distraction, just like masculine and feminine, if that's not what we're dealing with. Okay, what we're dealing with is what is the truth and what is actually being taught as a lesson here. Because someone could get all caught up in, what? He's white, and he said that to this brother, and blah, 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 and completely run with the whole race narrative and miss the value of the lesson. We have plenty of race narratives that are absolutely on point. That just wasn't one of them in my opinion. You know, in that sense. But what he did was to take word sound power and flip it. And that's what our rappers, our spoken word artists, our prophets and prophetesses do. Take words and redefine the narrative. Redefine what is meant. Today, I was in the grocery store, and someone said to the cashier, how you doing? And she says, I'm doing good. And even though she was talking about how she felt, the way it registered in my consciousness was, wow, she's actually intentionally doing good. You see that double entendre? She felt good, but she was intentionally doing good. And she wasn't even aware of how she said it, because later on I said something to her about it. She was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. And I'm like, yeah. I said, well, you know, it was uplifting. You never know who's watching you. You never know who's listening to you. So that's why it's so important to be present with the energy that we're putting out in the universe. Right? So on that note, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is to bring you to a space where you've been all the time but may not remember. And that is your magical self. You are a creator and creatress with the word sound that you use. You make magic. What is magic? But taking a raw substance and transforming it into something else. In the kitchen, we take food and we transform it into something else. Is it magic? If you want to use that terminology for it, that word, or we could just call it cooking. It's the same thing though. It's just the words that we are agreeing to use to describe something that we all commonly do, but because I'm not standing over a cauldron, over a fire with a witch hat on, you know, with my broomstick, because I'm not doing that, and I don't have my black cat with me, then am I being magical? But then what is a cauldron but a big pot that you cook in? You know? Some people might say this is a witch hat. I don't care. But I'm saying that to say that anything you do, you're always creating magic anyway. Right? And with words, through word sound power, you are what? Spelling. Hello? You are spelling. You are creating spells. You are weaving magic. Now, are you weaving an illusion that's going to empower people? Are you weaving the truth through your expression that's going to empower people? Or are you weaving confusion that's going to hurt somebody? Are you weaving confusion to keep you cloaked up so nobody sees what you're doing? That you're not really wanting people to see because you're ashamed because you know you're not supposed to be doing it. Whatever that it is, I'm not here to judge because, you know, who lives in a glass house that can throw a stone? Nobody here, right? So I just invite you to consider how powerful you are and how we accept the words based on how we've been taught. We accept concepts based on how we've been taught, and we formulate our whole life on it. We judge other people by that. We give people grace by that. Is it fair? Is it just? That one depends. Are you sitting over there and saying the light is great, or are you sitting over here and saying it's horrible? Depends on what you're trying to do. Right? So it's relative. So the endarkening process was taken through meditation by me saying, well, if people are always talking about enlightenment as the thing, what is the endarkening? Does anybody really want to go there? Because everybody's scared of the dark. And I saw that the endarkening was really the Shadowlands. It's really the Shadowlands. And in order to create a shadow, though, you have to first embrace the real darkness, the triple blackness of space. And then you have to embrace the light, too. So that means you got to be what? Balanced, fair, embracing both. The masculine, the feminine, the up, the down. You have to have all of that on your scales, on your plate, in order for you to then produce the shadows. So the shadows are happening whether you want them to or not. They're being created because you are always dwelling in darkness. Why? Because the planet is spinning in space. And what is space? But the darkness. When you look in the nighttime sky, what do you see? The darkness. So we're in it, whether you want to be in it or not. Just like we create, whether we're intentional in our creation or not. So, recognizing that it's always there, and then recognizing that there is always light allows us to know that we're alive, because if we weren't also having the light with us, we wouldn't even be here with shape and form and all of those things that were already experienced and expressed. We would be the totality of the creative force of the all that is, experiencing itself without seeing itself. And then is it really experiencing itself in the fullness? You know what I'm saying? So are y'all following me? You with me?
Absolutely.
On that? Yeah. So I would like to, at this time, invite you now to get in a comfortable place, and we're going to do a little brief meditation. If you need to use the restroom, like I do, because I was drinking all that water, I'm going to run to the restroom. But I invite you to, for those of you who are back there, please come and join the circle, if you will. And we're going to just meditate, take a little guided meditation journey.